Hi everyone, so today I'm going to use some colours that I've got left over from a recent expressive cattle painting I did. So this is conventional acrylic, fluorescent orange, turquoise, titanium white and ultramarine blue. And my plan is to do a drawing with the brush using this very fine tree branch brush. The idea being to see how well it allows me to stay free and loose, and we'll see what happens, because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to control things all that well with this. But the idea is to just really step outside the box I normally reside in, as it were. So I'm using a totally different brush, unusual colors for me, and I'm also going to be drawing a subject which I don't normally depict in quite such vibrant style. I've got some bit of a track record for painting animals in unusual colours, but generally speaking, my landscapes of city scenes are a little more conventional in colour. But this particular scene is the city of Bath in the UK. Absolutely beautiful buildings and city. And this is from a visit just before Christmas. You may remember from another video where I did an impressionist painting of the Christmas market there. So started off with mostly ultramarine. Now I'm coming in with the turquoise here. So this reference is from the same day, and just a slightly different part of the city, still near the city centre. So I'm just popping in, as you can see, putting in a couple of people here in the foreground. Not being too worried about whether these people are overlapping each other or not. I quite like that. I think it implies a sense of movement. And at the moment, at least, I'm really enjoying using this brush. I think it's really good for drawing. It provides a nice quality of line. It's sort of precision, expressive precision, as it were, because it's a fine line brush. You can put the line where you want, but because of the shape of the brush, when you push harder, you get this kind of lively quality of line, which yeah, I'm enjoying that so far. Okay, so normally we would put cold colors into the background. I'm going to reverse convention, and I've got my cold colors or cooler colors in the foreground. And now what I'm going to do is put the background buildings in with some of the fluorescent orange. Now we've got really quite an incredibly ornate couple of buildings in the background here, so I'm going to try and sum them up reasonably efficiently. So I think this building is part of the Roman baths that you can go and visit in Bath. Okay, so there's one building in place. Now, I'm very much doing my own thing in terms of copying this cityscape. So there's going to be sort of a cathedral or church, which is going to go in here in a moment. But I want to put in the other buildings on the wings first. Okay, so that's enough of the orange for the moment. So my original plan was to, as I said, cool colours, then the warmer colours for the background. But now I'm actually thinking I'm going to sort of alternate it. So I've gone cool for the sort of mid background. I mean, there's not a huge amount of depth in this scene, but for the mid background, I've gone warm. But now for this cathedral, I'm going to go back to the cooler colours, I think. I think that will be a nice contrast between cooler and warm. So we'll go back in with the, I'm not sure whether to use the blue or the turquoise. I'll go with the turquoise to begin with. Now I can't actually see because of the Christmas tree in front of the building. I can't actually see what's going on there, so I'm going to assume there's a central door, which would be normal, I guess, but um, it'll do for our purposes anyway. So I'm going to go back to the ultramarine blue. And put a couple of people in over here. So I'm going to paint this couple in a fairly loose style. And I'm not going to paint the portrait, but I'm going to paint with, sorry, not going to paint their portrait, but I am going to try and capture, you know, a fairly realistic depiction of two people. So I've got tinting white, cad red, ultramarine blue, cad yellow light, and burnt umber. And I've just sprayed the paper with water. So we'll begin by mixing a little bit of a flesh tone. So I'm going to start out with some of the white, some of the cad yellow, just the slightest touch of the red, and that'll probably do for a beginning. Now, on this particular day, it was pretty darn cold, and so consequently, I think people are looking quite a bit pinker than I know I was anyway, on this day, than they perhaps sometimes do. So the colour I'm putting down at the moment is a bit too yellow. So what we'll do is grab... Now, I have to be really careful with this cad red. I've got a long history of putting way too much in, which I think I just did again, but that's probably not too bad. Probably not too bad. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's a bit more like it. And because I'm painting into the still wet underlayer, that's going to soften the redness anyway. So that's a bit closer to what I originally intended. And what I can do is, if there's sort of a highlight area, so for example, the top of the lady's head is quite a bit brighter than the rest, then obviously I can leave some of that first layer showing. Okay, well, I think that's all I want to do for the faces for the moment. So if I can find my paper towels, there we go. Just cleaning off my brush, I'll be with you just a second. So these two are wearing very dark clothing. Chap on the left has got a blue coat on, so we'll just start with pure ultramarine blue. And perhaps a touch of the burnt umber, just to make it not a completely pure blue. A touch of the white, and we'll take just a little bit of that red as well. So that way the colour won't be exactly what comes out of the tube. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using colour straight out of the tube, obviously, if that's the effect you want. So that's worked fairly well from my point of view. So what I'm going to do now is just add a bit of the burnt umber, a bit more of the burnt umber to that blue. And this is going to become the hair colour for the guy. That's probably all I need to do for that one, or for that little bit. So we'll come back in with a touch more of the cad red and put that into the colour I've got on the go at the moment. So that way, when I move across to painting the lady's top, I've got a bit of a difference in colour and tone. Now, she's got a coffee mug here. She's got a bag as well. Okay, so just trying to be fairly efficient with my brushwork. But really, for the most part, what I'm doing here is just blocking in the silhouette. But I'm keeping in mind the way the fabric is kind of flowing over the person. And I'm leaving little bits exposed. So she's got a shoulder bag here. She's got a white scarf. And she is holding a mug, which I've sort of lost in my brush drawing there, so I can't quite see what's going on there. But I've left a bit of white to give myself a bit of leeway on how to deal with things. Then let's go back in with a bit more of the pure blue. I haven't washed my brush out, but we'll grab a bit of white this time, a bit more white, I should say, and mix that in with what's left on the brush. And then we'll pop in her hat. Okay, so let's clean the brush again. And we'll grab a little bit of the pink, a little bit of the, my voice is giving my speech is giving the game away. So I've got a bit of the cad red. We're grabbing quite a bit of the white to mix up a pinkish red. And we'll use that for this bag here. And then we'll perhaps go a touch darker, a bit more of the red, mix that in, pick up a bit of that kind of dirty blue from earlier, and pop in an indication of some shadow on the bag. So touch down there without getting too fussy about things. And then just to keep things reasonably sort of coherent in terms of the colour scheme, I'm going to use that same red to just pop in a touch of colour on this coffee mug, coffee cup. So just cleaned my brush out, and then we'll grab a little bit of the white here, touch of that blue, touch of that red, and that's giving me sort of a pale off-white or pinkish grey, and we'll just use some of that for some of the shadows on this kind of big scarf that the lady has wrapped around her neck. And I'll put some of that in on the kind of furry collar of the chap's jacket. Whoops. And then I'm actually going to use some of that for the shadow down here below the lady's coat, but I'm going to add a bit to that in just a second. So what we'll do is switching to a liner brush, this one here, so very long and slender, and I'm going to come in with pure ultramarine blue, and just suggest into that still wet paint a few stripes on the sort of the shirt or whatever it is that the lady's got underneath, and then we'll pop some of those in there as well, and perhaps there as well. So I'm not really depicting limbs exactly or anything like that. The idea is simply to, put in enough information that the viewer can follow the suggestion and see what's going on. So with that in mind, we'll pop in an indication of some gloved fingers here. And some suggestion of where the cuff is. Now I'm not quite so happy with this other arm, so I'm just adding in a few structural lines there. And let's put a little bit of colour in these gloves. Actually, what we'll do is go back to this darker red, add a touch of the yellow, pick up a little bit of the blue to give me a kind of shadow colour for the faces. So let's pop an ear in there, bit of shadow for the eye sockets. I've perhaps gone a little bit dark with this, but it's not too bad. I quite like the blue outlines that are showing on the lady's face, but we will give her, whoops, that line went a little bit too far, so we'll just lift off some of that with the finger, indication of some eyes and brows. Do I want to put a mouth in? I don't think I do particularly, but what I will do is use the same colour to put a cup in her hand. There, so that's not too bad now. Let's just go back, same brush, we'll just go back to a little bit of a lighter version of that shadow colour and make this chap have a little more colour in his cheeks, darken that area. Get a bit of water on the brush. Give him another ear there. And then let's put introduce a little bit of orange to proceedings. There's some yellow, tiniest touch of red, need a bit more. And we'll use this colour to, it's not bright enough for the bag, so we'll come back to that in a moment, but we'll pop in a little touch of colour on his gloves. Need to get a bit more water in the mix. And then come in with a bit of the white and mix that in to that same colour. It doesn't work that well on the bag, but I'm not too worried about doing any more. So you can see fairly quickly we've got the suggestion of two people you're wandering along or looking around in some kind of city scene. Now, I do kind of feel the need to just do a little more to the chap's coat. I feel it's a bit pale at the moment. So what we'll do is we will spray the surface of the painting with water, and we'll come in with the ultramarine blue and mix it in with some of that dark colour I had before, and I just want to kind of improve the structure of his body a bit, kind of make things a little more solid and subdued in colour. Make him a bit broader on the shoulder, just a touch. And I think that's all I want to do for those two. So now with that same colour, so we can start to put in the frayed silhouette of a belted Galloway cow. Okay, so we got a cow peeking out from behind this chap. Now I've made the head a little narrow there, I think, really. So that's a little more. Oops, perhaps a little too broad in the nose, but not too bad. Okay, so we've got a little bit of humorous addition of the cow peeking out from behind. I think I'm going to let that bit dry for the moment. So we've got a belty peeking out from that doorway. So I'm just adding some more interactive acrylic. I've let the background watercolor dry, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just want to bring this main animal to life a bit more in a fun way, you know. So hopefully it's become clear by now that, you know, this is meant to be a fun painting. It's a little bit of humor in here. Okay, and then I'm going to use some of that same color to just darken this part of the guy's coat a bit more. So I'm switching to a round brush now and just mixing up a little bit of red and adding just a touch of that colour I was using before. So we'll just fill in some of these bits of white that are showing. Keep a little sliver of light, or a little sliver of white, I should say, just along the top of that finger. I could do with a bit more blue around that cup as well, I've just realised. So back to my flat brush. That's working a little bit better. Gone very dark there for some eyes and nostrils on the cow. And then I'm just going to add a few finishing touches, and then I'll take you through the completed painting. Now, the other day I was in my car, just parked on the road. It's a little bit early for an appointment, so I was just, you know, taking 5 minutes, got my sketchbook out and did this little sketch. And I don't know how well you can see, but up on top of that telephone pole, I've put a little belted Galloway cow. So taking inspiration from this little sketch, this little 5-minute study, I thought I would do the same for the painting that I'm creating today.